All right, welcome to the Sales Edge and Business Chat Room. And I want to welcome you here for another session, for another interesting session. And, the last session that we had, we talked about seven psychological strategies to help us to, in the sales process to get us to close more deals. And in this session, we're going to go through six more. So I'll do a continuation. So we ended off at number seven last session, and we'll start off with number eight. Okay? So number eight is if you feel it, then say it. So let me say that again. If you feel it, say it. One of my mentors, one of my coaches, he used to always say this, and it always sat with me as being true. And quite honestly, even this is even more true in the selling environment that we're going through today. So when I started selling 30 years ago, and today, 30 years later, is just the same, right? We just have no time to waste for, we call it the tire kickers, the looky loos, people that are just not a fit for you, not a fit for your product, not a fit for your service. So if you know who you're talking to, right? You're talking to a prospect, and they're saying something that makes you feel, you know what? There's something not right here. So rather than just pushing through, and we always push through because we don't want to lose the deal. And the reason we don't want to lose the deal is because we don't have enough leads and prospects. Okay? And we don't want to lose a deal. But the reality is that there are some prospects that are just not a fit for us, our product or service. So rather than just pushing through, just get it out in the open, whatever it is you're feeling. And I'm not saying that you have to be like butting heads with them, but let's just say your prospect seems to you like they're just not really getting it, or they're not really interested. uh, Maybe the timing's not right, or they're saying something that is like causing some red flags for you, right? Or they seem distracted during the meeting or the conversation. So hey, Mr. Prospect, hey John, I really appreciate we're having this discussion today, but it seems like you're a little bit distracted right now. Is this maybe not, the best time to be talking about this, for us to be having this conversation? And then, if they say, "Oh no, 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 I'm sorry, I had something else on my mind, but yeah, I do want to have this conversation." So that's one scenario. The other scenario is, if they say not interested in what you're sharing with them, you can say something like, "Hey, John, I get the sense, or I get the feeling that it just doesn't seem to be a lot of interest to you. Is that fair? Is that right? I mean, is that fair to say? Is that right?" And then, they may say, "You know what? Didn't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm actually not, I'm not interested, and I don't think I have a desire for this." Okay. And then that's the start of the conversation. Then you can say something like, "Oh, okay, I hear what you're saying. Would you tell me why you're saying that?" So, they may come back and say, "No, no, this is definitely something that I want to talk about." And when you use this, you can call it a strategy or a technique. It's so amazing on how you get to the point so much quicker by sharing what you feel, and sharing your observations. All right. So if you feel it, say it or ask about it. Now, let's get into number nine. Number nine is, we're not scratching the surface. You want to get deep into their challenges. And I've believed in this for so many years, for decades, and I've been telling my clients, my students, you need to start thinking and behaving like a doctor, like a professional. We need to stop thinking like a salesperson and start thinking like a professional doctor, or we start thinking and behaving like a professional sales superstar. And this is the concept of getting deep into the challenges. And I think this takes on their the exact concern is that the typical the average salesperson comes to them and says, oh, you know what, we have this this problem, do you think you can help us? And the average salesperson says, hey, yes, definitely, absolutely, we can help you. These are all the things that we have. And they're just going on the surface, right? And they're not going into the challenges they just deal with. They just identify something on the surface, and then they offer the solution, versus the professional sales superstar who thinks like a doctor. And so the prospect says, I got this problem. Do you think you can help us? Well, the doctor says, well, tell me more about those challenges. Help me understand the pain you're feeling, the discomfort that you have. What else are you going through? All right. We've all seen or heard of an iceberg, right? Don't think of it as just something that can be seen above the layer. Think of it as an iceberg, and most prospects are willing to discuss um, what's at the top of the iceberg, with everyone. And what we want to do is we want to go below the surface and go deeper and deeper, and we want to understand what's really going on, and getting deep into those challenges, um, using effective questions to share other clients challenges, so that we can get into the core challenge, or the challenges that they're facing. And then number 10, you know we talked about going deeper, right? So what we want to do is we want to tie those challenges to value. So like I said, we talked about going deeper, deeper, above the we can talk about what's above the surface, but we want to go what's below the surface as well. So we really want to understand what's going on. And now what we want to do is we want to tie those challenges to a specific value. What is it? Uh, you know, what is it that if they could solve this challenge, what benefit, what's the reward for them, or what is the lessening of the pain? What would it mean to them in value on the upside, in revenue or profitability or savings? Whether it's time, money, personnel. Okay, so here's a quick example. Prospect John is talking about their marketing challenges, right? And they're saying, hey, you know what? Our marketing is it's not where we want it to be. It's not as effective as it was before, and we just feel like we're not getting the number of inquiries that we need. And then so now you, as a salesperson, you got to dig into those challenges, and then you say something along the lines of, hey, I hear that quite a fair bit, John. Let me ask you this question. If you could solve those challenges that you're facing right now, what would it mean in extra or additional revenue to your company? And what you're doing now is you're giving John, the prospect, right, the chance to come back with a number, something they can quantify. And, the answer might be, well, I guess we would be making an extra, 300,000, 500,000, an extra million a year if we can solve those challenges. So now what you've done in this conversation is you've tied the challenges to to a specific something tangible, a value that has a number on it, and it's their number. Okay, you didn't just pluck it out of the air. Okay, and by the way, if you're on the consumer side and you're selling to consumers, there's also still a value to solving their challenges. So it's not just B2B, but it's B2C as well. So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a number, but we got to quantify. We have to quantify a value to solving these challenges. So what is it really costing them right now? Is it money? Is it time? Is it security? Is it comfort? All right. Next, we get into number 11. Make it make it a two-way a two-way dialogue. Now, psychological studies have shown us that when people are actually speaking, like when they're actually speaking, right? That's when they're the most engaged. And when they're listening, maybe they're engaged, but they're less likely to be engaged, right? So what you want to do is get them, really what you want to do is to, get them engaged in the conversation, and you know, you want it to be a back and forth dialogue. You want it to be a two way conversation. So there's never an extended period of time where you're just going on and on and on and on. And you're talking about your product, talking about your service, offering the value that you create, and you want to be only going for a little bit and then re-engaging them back into the conversation. If it is truly a two-way conversation, you're going to close a lot more sales because it means they have to be engaged. If it's a two-way dialogue, keep that going back and forth. Anytime you present something, you come to an appropriate part. So you want to say something like this. So now that I've shown you or you've seen this, and I want to understand and I want to make sure, does that make sense to you based on what we're talking about? Get them back involved in the conversation. Number 12, the money, the budget comes later. And this is one of the most crucial things that we don't want to start a conversation by talking about price or talking about money at the beginning of the conversation. Now, does it mean that if they say, how much is it, that you just say, hey, hold on, I'll tell you later? No, we don't want to do that because nobody likes to be told, nobody likes to be told no. We want that to come closer to the end of our discovery process. And so, what that would look like is we've gone through the challenges, we've gone through, what the value is, the upside, the revenue, the security, the time. We've gone through really understanding the whole issue, and then we talk about the budget. And this question can come at any point. All right. So when they say, "Hey, Chris, how much is this?" Right. So what you could say is something along the lines of, "Oh, John, I figured you might ask a question like this, right? Typically, a solution based on the things that we've talked about, the challenges that you're facing, and we can certainly assist you with this. So typically, a solution for what we discussed could range anywhere from 10,000 to 15,000, all right, or 100,000 to 200,000." Okay, so we're right in that range. Do you see where you might be fitting in that range? So what you've done is you've given them a number, okay, and then if they say, "Wow, that's too high," well, I understand it's just a range, right? So we need to fit it in that range, all right. And what you're doing is you're giving yourself a pretty big range, but you're telling them that this is the range of potential budgets. And now we're letting them come back and say, "Oh, you know what? I don't know if we can do 200,000, but 150,000, that sounds more within our range." So now you have your number. And if you've really built an effective connection through your process, you're going to get them to say that, and you're going to get that valuable insight. And instead of making sure that it comes way way later on, and the money objection comes out, you've really built that connection, and you've really built that value. Okay. Number 13, we call it feedback loops. All right. And this is where you want to get feedback on parts of your conversation, on the points that you've been making with them, all of this while. So, as I mentioned earlier, we want to make sure our conversation and our presentation is a two-way dialogue, and the feedback loops are, those little questions, really tiny, simple, innocuous questions when we're talking to people that pull them back into the conversation. And I use I use these feedback loops all the time, okay? In almost every interaction that I have, because it is so damn effective. And if you ever find yourself, talking, going on and on for, more than 45 seconds, 60 seconds, or a minute, and you realize that you got to stop, just stop, and then just say this. It's so simple. It just say, "Hey, you know what? Before I go any further, does all of this make sense?" Or, the things that I said. Do you see what I'm saying? Or all of this kind of works for you, right? These little innocent, innocuous questions are pulling people back into the conversation, and it shows that the questions, these tiny little questions, are not only re-engaging your prospects or people into the conversation, but it's also creating little moments of buying signs. Okay, I want you to think of these little questions as mini closes in your conversations. And so you're pulling them in closer and closer. And, that way, by the end of the presentation, on the assumption that we're all on the same page, okay, they're all on the same page with you, and they're like, hey, you know what? They like what you're saying. Then the only question is the close. What would you like to do next? That's a simple close. What would you like to do next? There's no need for hard closing because you use these feedback loops all throughout the process. Okay. And now all you're doing is just establishing what the next step is. Okay. And so I urge you to think of these 13 strategies. They're so simple to implement into your presentation, in your conversations. It's going to make you a lot stronger. It's going to make you a better presenter. It's going to make you a better sales professional. And it's going to make you a better closer. Okay? I want to thank you for listening to this session or watching this session. And, I've shared the tips, and we will come back with more tips every single week. And I want to wish you a wonderful, the rest of the day or the evening. And I want to say that I hope that we all stay safe, and blessings for all of us. All right. Thank you.